My name is Bailey Parker, and I am the Communications Director here at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. Really quick, if you've been here before, you've heard this a billion times, I'm not an attorney. You don't want legal advice from me. This presentation is not meant to serve as a substitute for reading various laws that are discussed. I don't think we're going into any laws today, or for seeking legal counsel on your own. When it comes to topics like this, the presentation is merely serving as an introduction and overview of this topic. Okay, let's get into it. Travel scams. What are the most common schemes here? Well, I think the majority will say they've probably been offered a free vacation at some point in their life. Free in quotations there because it's not actually free. So you'll see ads online for these free vacations. Maybe you'll get emails, calls, text messages, or you might even get those offers in your mailbox saying that you've won a vacation, even though you've never entered a contest. Now, this is where things can get really tempting, right? Because you know that you haven't entered a contest, but they say that you've won. It sounds very tempting. The vacation sounds wonderful. You're stressed, overworked. You need some time off, and you start to kind of lull yourself into a thought process of, yeah, maybe this is real. If you are given an offer saying that you've won something, you've won a contest, you've won a sweepstakes, key thing here is you always have to enter to win. You can't just not enter something. I'm not going to not play the Powerball. I'm not going to not buy a ticket and then the Powerball is going to call me and say, hey, you've won the $500 million prize. I wish. It just doesn't happen that way. If you respond to these, a lot of times they're going to ask you to pay for fees or taxes. So your free vacation is not actually free. So these fees may be for shipping and handling of tickets, or it could be for some behind the scenes fees of, oh, we're going to handle your luggage, or we're going to book you extra things, or whatever it may be. They're going to say that you have to pay fees and or taxes in order to get the vacation. If it's free, if you've won something, you most likely are not going to be paying anything. So don't fall for this. It's probably one of the most common schemes out there for travel. A legitimate company is not going to ask you to pay for a free prize. I know some people hear the word taxes and they think, okay, yeah, I know if you win the lottery, you have to pay taxes. So they think this might be legitimate. Again, if you haven't entered, you can't win, okay? And this next one is kind of in the same realm. There are bad actors out there that are doing robocalls about vacation deals. So there are specific laws that apply to robocalls. Also, robocalls is thrown out there all the time, that word. Robocalls is a very specific thing. It's not every single phone call that you get that you think is a scam or from somebody you don't know. Robocalls are specifically calls that are marketers who are looking to get in contact with you about something. Most likely you have allowed them to do so by signing a document or putting in your email or phone number. You may not have even known it because sometimes they're in the terms and conditions. But robocalls are not just every scam call you get. So remember that. But there are specific rules when it comes to robocalls. So you might get these things offering you vacations at a discounted price. Robocalls, legitimate robocalls, trying to sell you something are illegal unless the company got written permission from you that they can call you offering those things. So you just can't get a call from a random marketer. What's the first thing that comes to mind? People who are selling knives. And you have never heard of this company, you didn't sign up for anything, you didn't sign up for a mailing list, and you get a random phone call from a knife salesman saying, hey, I want to sell you this product. That's technically illegal according to federal law, and the FTC is the one that would enforce that. So If they're trying to sell you something and you did not ask for them to call you or give them permission to call you or contact you, that's illegal. Here's the key also. Scammers don't care about rules, right? They're criminals, so they don't care about doing illegal things. That's why it's always a sign that if someone's breaking the law, it's most likely a good chance that it's a scam. That's a huge red flag, giant sign blaring in your face of, okay, they're trying to sell me something I've never heard from them before, which means this is illegal, probably a good sign that it's a scam. I know a lot of people have feelings about the do not call registry. I still think the do not call registry is a good option. The reason people get upset about it is it doesn't stop the phone calls. They think that every scam phone call will stop once they sign up. That's not what the do not call registry is. What it is, it's stopping legitimate marketing robocalls from getting to you. It may take a month to kick in. I think it's still worth it to sign up, because if you're getting phone calls still after you sign up for the do not call registry, it's a pretty good sign it's a scam. So do not call registry.gov, that's the website, and I can type it into the comments in case you're looking to sign up. I still think it's a worthwhile thing. It's free, your information is private, so take advantage of that. International travel document scams. So this usually has to do with passports, but you might see websites that are claiming to help you get these international travel visas, passports, or other documents that you may need in order to travel overseas outside of our limits. So another thing that can often fall into this is like driving permits. If you're looking to drive a vehicle internationally, you will have to get some type of driving permit. There are some scams behind that too that are lumped into this document scam. These websites that you see, they're often websites, they're just copycats of the US Department of State's website. And they're going to charge you high fees for services that are free through the US Department of State's website. If you download the slides from this presentation, like I mentioned at the beginning, this PowerPoint and these slides will have all of the links you need in order to get to these websites I'm mentioning. So the link for the US Department of State website will be there too. Also, another little thing that a lot of federal websites have started doing, I know the IRS has done it and the Social Security Administration has done it. I haven't checked the US Department of State's website, but I assume that they've put a bar at the top now that says this is an official government website, because it's so common for government websites to be copied now by scammers and criminals. So always look for that bar at the top if you're going to these websites. And I have some additional tips for if you're doing this type of thing online. Vacation home scams. I would say this is the second most common travel scam. You hear about these a lot more often now because of services like Airbnb, Vrbo, Home to Go, whatever service you are using or looking at. That's where you can rent entire homes, apartments, maybe even just rent a room in somebody's home for your vacation. And it's super easy. And sometimes it's cheaper than getting a hotel. It's very attractive for large families or families who are looking to have multiple rooms without having to pay that premium at a hotel for getting multiple rooms. Scammers take advantage of that. They're taking advantage of the fact that you're going on Airbnb or these other different types of websites and looking for homes, because these aren't retail establishments. They're not a Marriott or a Hilton, right? This is not a corporation. It's just somebody who has decided to rent out their home or a room in their home and make money off of that. Scammers will hijack real rental listings and advertise them as their own. So this can look like either they copy the exact listing just under their name, and or they could create their own website or create a copy website that will copy a rental company, something like that. And sometimes scammers don't even bother with real rentals. They'll just make up listings for places that aren't really for rent, or they don't even exist. So they could find a very attractive home in the area, or it could be halfway across the country and it looks like it's at a beach. So they're going to list it in the Charleston area because they know there are beaches there, and they're going to list it as if it exists, and it most certainly does not. So do your research beforehand when you're looking to rent from one of these places. It's always good to look at the reviews, see how many reviews there are, what the average review is, also how long the seller or the renter has been on one of these sites. Airbnb, Vrbo, and HomeToGo all have that option of how long that renter or the owner of the property has been renting. I would be wary of the property owner who's just brand new and has no or just a few reviews on their profile. Also, it's a little suspicious when you see a ton of reviews in a very short period of time if they're a new property renter. So look out for those things. Charter flight scams. You may get a flyer in the mail, maybe even your friend in your neighborhood tells you about an offer. You see an ad online or on TV to go on a vacation by private plane. A lot of times these offers will be all inclusive. So it'll include lodging, sightseeing tours, it'll include absolutely everything. And there are real vacation packages that offer things like this. So it doesn't sound too out of the ordinary. The key here is you'll pay and then you find out it's all a scam. So scammers are taking advantage of the fact that people want all-inclusive vacations. They want to not have to pay a single thing when they get to their vacation spot. They just want to enjoy themselves and don't want to have to pull out their wallet. So scammers are using that as a scenario to steal your money and information. The key thing here is charter filing is, if it's not approved by the US Department of Transportation before your package is sold, it's most likely you're dealing with a scammer. You can check for these things. There's a list of approved public charter flights on the US Department of Transportation's website. You can go on there before you buy a package, because that flight should be chartered, since it's usually leaving on a specific date and coming back a specific date. You should be able to look up that charter flight on that website. Again, the links will be in the slides, so you can access that. So always check beforehand to make sure that flight actually exists. If it does not, it's 99.9% chance that it's a scam. I'm sure that the seller will try and tell you, oh, we just haven't booked it yet. You don't want to deal with somebody like that. So what are the common red flags of travel scams in general? I mentioned at the beginning that if you can identify a red flag, you can usually avoid getting scammed. So these are some pretty bright, big red flags of travel scams. If somebody advertises an offer with these phrases, or there's variations on these things, this isn't cut and dry. If you see this and say, well, this offer didn't say that exact thing, or wasn't that exact situation, so it's probably real. No. Scammers love to create variations so they can trick you, right? They're very smart. They're always changing their tactics. So any type of variation on what I'm about to tell you would probably fall underneath a scam. So a free vacation you have to pay for, we already covered that. If you have to pay to claim a prize, it is not real. And oftentimes they're going to ask you to pay in really weird ways. They're vague about details when it comes to the travel offer. They can't give you specifics about times or even flights if you're talking about those charter flights. They're not going to tell you details about hotels or maybe the home that you're looking to rent. So if they're vague, pretty good sign that it's a scam. And I mentioned they're going to want you to pay in weird ways. If anyone, not just travel scams, but if anyone is asking you to pay by wire transfer, gift card, or cryptocurrency, head for the hills, run the other way. You should not be paying these ways just for these types of transactions. Sure, you may have to pay by a wire transfer for when you are buying a home. You're putting your down payment for a mortgage. That is a common scenario where a wire transfer may happen. But a wire transfer is not going to happen with a vacation, or a wire transfer is not going to happen with some product that you see online. They're very uncommon, and scammers love these types of payments because they're virtually impossible to trace. So same thing with cryptocurrency. There are some legitimate businesses who are taking cryptocurrency as a form of payment, but they're not forcing you to pay that way. They're not saying, hey, you have to buy this computer with Bitcoin. That's suspicious. If somebody's saying you have to pay a certain way and it involves these things, it's a scam. Pressure for you to make a quick decision about a package or a rental. This is a huge red flag across the board for all scammers. They're going to want you to make a decision quick because they don't want you to think. They don't want you to sit back and think, well, maybe this does sound too good to be true, or maybe the offer sounds a little suspicious. Maybe I should check the Department of Transportation's website for that charter flight. The more time you take to really research something and think about something, the more time you have to realize it's a scam. Scammers don't want that. They want your money or your information. So they are pressuring you to think now. They're going to say things like, oh, this offer expires in 1 hour, and if you don't give me your credit card information or your bank account information in that time, you lose out on the deal. That's just not how those types of things work. So don't fall for that pressure. Premium vacation properties advertise for super cheap prices. Sure, we can find some incredible deals online if we do digging, and they may be legitimate. But if you're seeing a property online that looks absolutely incredible, like it is a mansion, that it's fully decked out, and they're telling you that they're going to put food in the refrigerator and all of these things, it is premium. Or a vacation package for a couple $100. Prices that seem too good to be true. The reason it does is because it probably is. That goes for scams across the board. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Oh, that's not the same thing. This is from my scholarship scam website. But in scholarship scams, they're not going to cost you money. So there's an extra tip on scholarship scams. Here are some tips for travel shopping. If you are planning a vacation, maybe a last minute vacation, you're saying, oh, hey, I've got a long weekend coming up. Maybe we should go to the beach, something like that. Here are some general tips. Don't sign or pay until you know the terms of the deal. If there's a long terms and conditions sheet, read through those things. Don't just mindlessly sign things. I know it's very difficult to read the fine print. We're all busy, and sometimes it's very complicated language. It's, as I like to say, it's legalese. That's what I say to our attorneys when they say things that I don't understand. You're speaking legalese. Can you speak in regular terms? But make sure you know what you're getting into before you sign or pay. Definitely don't pay or give over your information and then get the terms of the deal. That's how to get into a lot of trouble. Don't pay with those wire transfer gift cards or cryptocurrency, even the prepaid debit cards. Don't do it. The moment it's gone, you're most likely never going to see it again because it's almost impossible to trace once it's out of your hands. Do your own research. Don't trust somebody else who just says, oh yeah, this is an incredible deal. You should, it is legitimate, even if it's a friend. Of course, we love our friends and family members, but we do know here at Consumer Affairs that theft by family or friends is a common occurrence. So as much as you may love that Cindy gave you this great offer, just tell Cindy that, you know, yeah, I'm interested in the offer, but you know, I want to do my own research. Usually when you say you want to do your own research and it's somebody who is trying to scam you, they're going to start to flounder. They're going to say, oh no, you don't need to do that. Here, let me send you X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. They're going to try and get you to not do that research. So it's always important to look up these travel companies. Even just Google the travel company name with the word scam or review or complaint after the fact. Go to our complaint portal online. See if there have been any complaints against that business in our complaint portal. That's all a part of being a responsible consumer, especially if you're going to be giving over your hard-earned money. Use comparison websites and applications. This goes across the board. It's the same as buying a car. Don't just take the first offer that's given to you for an APR if you're getting a loan. Don't just take the first offer that's given to you when you're looking for a vacation package. Flights especially. Don't just go directly to Delta or Southwest. Sure, they may have the best offer, but if you go to comparison websites, they'll give you all the offers so you can make an informed decision for yourself. Ask about those mandatory hotel resort fees and taxes. I used to live in a town above Las Vegas, and when I lived there, we'd occasionally go down and eat food and go to a show or something like that. And whenever we stayed in a hotel in Vegas, we always had to look in the fine print of does not include resort fees. I think the same thing happened when we went to Myrtle Beach, or I booked a hotel in Myrtle Beach one time when we moved here. You'll see resort fees in there. And sometimes these resort fees can be hundreds of dollars. So what may look like a really incredible deal for a hotel room, always look at those extra fees that may be tacked on. Also, this goes for Airbnb and Vrbo and those home rental sites. Don't just take the nightly price at face value. Always go in and expand the price, because you could be paying a $300 cleaning fee on a home that you're staying in for 3 nights. I know I was looking for a vacation just a couple of weeks ago for sometime in the fall, and I saw like $125 a night for this really great looking cabin up in Tennessee. And I thought, that's a great deal. Yeah, we could do that for a long weekend. And then they were going to charge $500 for a cleaning fee, but I didn't see that until I went in and actually expanded the price. So always do your research, make sure you're expanding those fine print items. If you're buying travel insurance, be sure that the agency you're buying through is licensed. It's always important to make sure that if you are buying any type of product that requires a license, you want to buy from somebody who's licensed, right? You want to work with a credit counselor who's licensed, because there are certain laws and regulations they have to follow. Same thing for these insurance agencies. You want to make sure they're following the laws and regulations they're supposed to be, and if they're licensed, they're most likely doing that. And check that charter flights are listed. This is huge if you're getting an offer on those giant vacation all-inclusive passes. Always make sure that the charter flights are approved through the U.S. Department of Transportation before you pay or even give over any of your information. Your information is money to a lot of scammers too, because they can either sell that or use that for themselves. So don't think, oh, I just gave over my social security number. I don't know why you'd be giving that over for travel. Don't. That's a really bad idea. So your information is money too. Don't give over any information or money before you find out more details. Here are some basic tips that you can use to protect your money, information, and identity as you are shopping for things online, especially. That's what we're doing nowadays. We buy so many things online, including travel, because we can use those comparison sites. So here's how to stay safe. Number one, consider your payment options. Using a credit card is much better than using a debit card. You should never, ever, under any circumstance, use a debit card online. Reason being, there's more protections behind a credit card. That money on your credit card is not actually your money. If you're working with Capital One, it's Capital One's money. They're lending it to you to use. So if you have a fraudulent charge, there's more insurance behind that on a credit card. There's actually more time of reporting on a credit card too. Debit cards, not so much. I know my dad had his debit card stolen and actually recreated. And so somebody went to an ATM and pulled out $500 from his bank account. He didn't see that $500 for 6 months, even though it was caught the same day it happened. And it's just because there's less protections on debit cards. It's a straight line into your bank account. So don't shop online with your debit card. If it does get stolen, remember, or even like a check, if your checkbook gets stolen, your bank account information is on the bottom there. So don't use a debit card. Pay attention to the website's URL. If you're shopping online, you always want to make sure you're shopping on a secure site. So what it may look like is you'll have a green lock right here. It may not say secure, but you most likely will see a green lock. If you don't see any of those, see if there's an S after the HTTP. If there is, that means that that website, the web server, has paid extra money to secure that server. What that may actually look like in real life is, say you're on Amazon. Amazon is a secure site. They've paid extra money for when you put in your payment information, it's going to scramble that information as it's put through when you purchase something. You never want to purchase something on an unsecure site. That means anybody could get into that and see the information that you are inputting. Now, that doesn't mean that you're never going to have your information stolen on a website like Amazon. Hacking happens all the time. I know it happened to me where I didn't update my password with a strong enough password a couple of years ago, and somebody was able to get in and was able to buy a bunch of stuff and send it to themselves on Amazon. So don't think just because it's a secure site that you are free of fraud. And don't give it all away. If a merchant is requesting more information or data than you're comfortable sharing, don't shop there. If they're saying things like, oh, you need to give over your last 4 digits of your social security and your bank account information and all of this, no. If you don't feel comfortable with doing that, don't do it. Don't feel pressured into giving that information because you're looking to get the deal. And also, your social security information should be very close to the chest. You should not be revealing that very often. In fact, when you go to doctor's offices, I know this happens to me every time I go to a doctor's appointment. They want me to write out my last 4 digits of my social security every single time. And they say, well, it's so we can verify your identity. Well, I gave you my insurance card at the beginning, and I can show you my driver's license, and you can do all that to verify my identity. Why do I have to write it on a piece of paper that I know is going to sit in a file in your office? So if you don't feel comfortable sharing it, don't ask why. Why are you requesting this information, and how are you going to keep it safe? If you only need to fill out certain fields in checkout, only fill out those certain things. And you should not save your payment information in your profile. And constantly monitor your statements. Check your accounts for any authorized activity. So what that would be is, I know for me, I mean, I'm kind of a bit of a type A person. So if you couldn't tell, and that means I'm checking my bank accounts like once a day. You do not need to be me. Don't be me. It's probably overkill. But maybe look at your accounts. If you're making a lot of purchases one day, check the next day to make sure there hasn't been any unauthorized activity. Check once a week, maybe, as a rule. Every Sunday, you go into your bank account and you look through. You go through your credit cards, whatever you're using to spend money, just to make sure that everything's good. And set up alerts. So if your credit card is used, you'll receive an alert with the transaction details. I know that I had an issue with one of my credit cards and I didn't have these alerts set up. And all of a sudden I got an email saying, hey, did you just buy $350 worth of stuff from this sneaker website? And I was like, no, I didn't. Luckily, they thought that it was suspicious, so they notified me. But if I would have had those alerts set up, I would have immediately gotten a text message saying, hi, you just spent this. So I didn't have to wait for them to find out, right? Always set up these alerts if you can. And they're free, so why not use it? If you haven't checked your credit report in the last year, please do so. You can do so once a week until the end of this year. You don't need to do it once a week. That is definitely overkill, but you should be doing this to make sure you haven't been a victim of identity theft. This is the fastest and easiest way to find out if you have been a victim. And if you find anything on there that is suspicious or incorrect, that might be a sign. It doesn't mean that you are for sure a victim if your name is spelled incorrectly. Sometimes there's just errors on credit reports. But even if there is just an error, you want to make sure that gets corrected, right? So the place that we are going to tell you to go, and the only place we're going to tell you to go, is annualcreditreport.com. Reason why is it's authorized by federal law to not save any of your information. They're not going to market, they're not going to sell your information. There are some very well-known credit report providers out there that in the terms and conditions, if you were to read them before signing up, you are agreeing to letting them sell your information to third-party marketers. So you might all of a sudden start getting a lot more credit card offers or insurance offers in your mailbox or over the phone, your email. You may even start getting phone calls just from random marketers because that company sold your information. Annualcreditreport.com does not do any of that. That's why you should use this. If you can't go to the website, it is a secure server, and they are going to ask for your social security number because that's how you get your credit report. You can do this over the phone if that makes you feel more comfortable, and they will send it to either a provided email that you give, or they can send it to your mailbox. I would suggest not sending it to your mailbox because there is a lot of private information on that credit report, but if that's the only way you can get it, then you definitely want to look at that credit report anyway. Fraud alerts. This is free. Everything I'm talking about is free. So this lasts 1 year. This alerts businesses that may be viewing your report to take extra steps to verify your identity. A situation may be I'm going to buy a new car and I have a fraud alert on my account. When I go to buy that car, they're going to check my credit report, right? Especially if I'm getting a loan. When they check my credit report, it's going to get, that business is going to get an alert saying, hey, by the way, they have a fraud alert on their account. You need to check their identity, make sure they are who they say they are. So that's just an extra little step that you can take to verify your identity and prevent fraud. It also entitles you to an extra free credit report from each of the credit reporting agencies. You don't need that this year because you get one a week for the rest of the year. But in normal years, you would only get to see one from each of the credit reporting agencies. So this is helpful too. And all you have to do is call one of the credit reporting agencies. I say one call, that's all. So Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax, just call one of them. They'll talk to each other and let each other know about the fraud alert. The freeze is a little different though. So it's free to place or lift. It stops anyone from accessing your credit report, including you. Now, that does not mean you can't look at your credit report. You totally can. It means that nobody can open up new lines of credit in your name. This is the safest way to prevent the really bad forms of identity theft, which is somebody opens up a credit card in your name or a loan, or they register for a utility account or buy a cell phone and use your information. Once that type of identity theft gets on your credit report, it can be a long process to get that removed. So if you have the freeze, even you yourself can't open up new lines of credit. You can thaw it and go shopping for a loan, whatever you're looking to buy, and then it will refreeze, or you can just permanently lift it if you'd like. It's a little bit more complicated though, because it's a more complicated process. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna give you a PIN. You have to place it with each of the credit reporting agencies. I know people think this is a headache. I've heard that from consumers, and I understand that. I think it's worth the headache though. The small headache you have now, I think, is worth the giant migraine that you'd have to deal with down the line if you become a victim of identity theft. And here's the main takeaway. No security method is 100% safe. You should be combining as many security measures on your personal information as possible. You should be using two-factor authentication on every account that you can. You should be using the fraud alert and the security freeze together. You should be setting up those account alerts, checking your credit report, checking your accounts. Combining as many of these safety measures as possible means that you will be safer than if you didn't. So follow the recommendations for those strong passwords doesn't mean that you can forget all of the rest. Just because you set up the account alerts on your credit card doesn't mean that you can never look at your credit card statements again. You want to make sure you're doing everything together. That is when you have the higher amount of protection, which means you are better safe. And if you think you've been a victim, please call us. Even if you don't know, if you have maybe like I saw something that was suspicious, so I don't know if I am though, give us a call. We can help you identify that, and we can help you through the process if you have been a victim. This is what our toolkit looks like. You can find this online. This is our 4-step process of how you stop the damage of identity theft, and it's extremely useful.